Yeah. Everyone, give it up for yourselves again. The more we clap and move around to get the blood flowing. Thank you guys for coming in for this breakout session. I mentioned it once before, but if you weren't here for that, the closer you move to the front, not only does the Wi-Fi work and work better, but it also puts you closer to the presentation. You can see more. So feel free to grab a seat closer to the front so your Wi-Fi is clearer and works better. And also, if you need to charge your phones or any of your devices, there are charging stations outside as well, so you can feel free to do that. Otherwise, you guys ready for the next session? Yeah? You guys ready? Lively bunch. I like it. From Silver Pop, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Jody Wern, everybody. Jody.
Thank you, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for attending my session today. Real quick introduction to me, because I have a ton of content to cover with you. Again, my name's Jody Wern. I'm a product marketing director at Silverpop, which is an IBM company. I'm sure everyone in the room is familiar with IBM. For those of you that aren't familiar with Silverpop, we're a digital marketing platform provider that serves the needs of both B2B and B2C marketers. In the interest of kind of keeping that front section intro short, we do have a booth here, so if you want to learn more about our products and services after I'm done with my session or anytime during the next day and a half, please do stop by the booth and talk with our folks there. So hopefully this is a timely conversation for us to have today for most of you. As a lot of you, I assume, like we at Silverpop, are in the throes of 2016 planning. And one of the things that's really important to do as part of a planning effort is really assess how you've done in the prior year. Look at where did we do well and where do we need to improve, and what are some things that we may need to look at a little bit differently as we plan for 2016 and figure out how we can improve our efforts there, our marketing efforts there. I want to start by talking about some study data out of an IBM study that was done. It was published actually last year, and it was called Stepping Up to the Challenge. I neglected to put the link in here, but if you search on IBM Stepping Up to the Challenge, it'll be one of the first things that comes back in your results return. Encourage you to take a look at it. It's a really interesting study. But what they did is they surveyed 500 marketers and really talked to them about where they felt like what their role was in their organization, what some of the challenges were that they were facing, and what some of their priorities were. And there were some interesting tidbits that came out of this study that I wanted to kind of look at first before we talked about key assessment areas. So first of all, one of the really good bits of data that came out of it is CMOs are really now integral to strategy planning. Only second behind the CFO in working with the CEO on figuring out strategies for their company. This is great because not only, as we always did, we always executed on strategy, but now we've got a lot of input into it. And that means that the CEO is recognizing how important marketing is to their success as an organization. Now with good news, there always comes a little bit of bad news too. And the bad news is, as marketers, there's some areas that we are really struggling with. We're struggling with advanced analytics. We're struggling with figuring out how to engage with people over social. First two sessions in this room were all about social. It's a real challenge area for us as marketers. We're struggling with figuring out how all those different touch points that our customers have with us, how do we bring that together into our database and use that? How do we associate that with a single contact so that we can effectively communicate with them? We're struggling with this stuff, guys, because it's hard stuff. It's not easy. We've been struggling with it for a while, too. These are some of the same things that were reported in a study that was done 2 years prior by IBM. So these aren't new challenges for us. These are challenges we've been trying to resolve for a while. And again, it's because it's really hard. So if you're struggling with the same thing, don't feel bad. Just know that these are things that other marketers are struggling with too. We're all trying to figure this stuff out. The other interesting bit of information that came out of this study is they identified that marketers really fell into one of three categories. So the first category was really the traditionalists, and this is the marketer that's just getting started. They're not really using social much yet. From an analytics perspective, they're not doing anything too fancy. They're really just kind of probably getting by with kind of more of a batch and blast approach. Then you've got the social strategists. And these are the guys, they're engaging via social. They've got some analytics. They kind of understand their customers. They understand what they're doing, what their interests are, but still have more that they need to do. And then you've got the digital pace setters. These are the guys that have advanced analytics down. They're engaging via social. They've wrap their arms around the data explosion. They're capturing all the data they need to. They really, really understand their customer. Now, what was really interesting about this, and it surprised me, was that you would think that the bulk of the marketers would have fallen into the social strategist category, but they didn't. It was an even a third just about, which was really surprising. Now, we all want to get to the digital pace setter point, right? These are the guys that are bringing the most brand recognition, the most ROI, and the most revenue to their organizations, and that's where we all want to be. But to do that, we really have to continually assess and continually improve our programs. And that's what assessments are really all about. Marketers are doing more selling and have more influence in the buying process than ever before. Make no mistake, we are the salespeople for our organization. We're doing more selling than they're doing, quite frankly. This is data from a study that actually we published back in 2012. 50 to 80% of the buying process is happening before anyone even interacts with your brand. And really, if you think about your own behavior as a consumer, it totally makes sense. Think about, even as a B2B buyer, you're thinking about making a major purchase, maybe for a marketing automation platform. What do? You go out to your LinkedIn communities, you ask them questions, you talk to your peers, you go and you look at reviews on different review sites, you go to the website, maybe for the brand. You're doing all of that on your own before you even interact with the brand. It's what we do now. It's the way of the world now. And as marketers, we own that process. We own those communications. We own that relationship in those early stages, which is critical. So this is really why assessments are so important. They really give you a report card for how you're doing and really a springboard for establishing and achieving goals in the upcoming months and years. You gotta know how you did to know what you need to fix so you can do better. They help you explain to your staff and to peers where you are and where you wanna go. They help you get budget buy-in with executives, and this is so important for new strategies and campaigns. And when you make improvements in those areas, it makes you and your team look really, really good. Quick story about a customer of ours. A little bit of a different use case, but he started at a company, he was brought into a company as a marketing leader. And one of the things that he did when he came in, he immediately recognized that they were doing a lot of things in a manual way that was costing them. So he came in and he sat down and he mapped out how their process worked today. Tons of manual things. Their salespeople were doing a ton of manual work, wasting a ton of time, losing a ton of leads. It was really, really bad. So he came in and he mapped that out, and then he sat down and he built out a plan for moving to marketing automation, and he showed the executive team what he felt like he could accomplish from a leads goal improvement going to marketing automation. Mapped the whole thing out. Showed them where he could take the manual processes out of their process and how he could improve lead flow. He committed a 40% increase in leads to the management team. He got a 65% increase in leads. His salespeople love him. All the manual processes that they had to deal with are gone. Automation has taken over for all that. They've got qualified leads coming in that they can contact. And now, going into 2016, he's been given the go-ahead by his leadership to increase his staff and expand his programs, all because he went in and did that deep dive assessment. So they're really, really important. Okay, so we're gonna look at 5 key areas. And as we go through these areas, I'm gonna give you a kind of key question to ask yourself as you're assessing that area with your team. So first one, target market. Key question to ask. Are you focused on your target market, or are you trying to be all things to everyone? This is a toughie. All of us as marketers at some point have fallen into this trap, right? Our product or our service is developed for a particular target market or target markets, but we find there's other markets that, wow, well, we didn't really think about financial services maybe being a target market. Let's market to them too. Wow, I didn't think retail was gonna be a big one for us, but wow, yeah, let's go for that too. And before you know it, you are stretching wide, but you're not going very deep from a marketing messaging perspective, from a product and service offering perspective, and that's not a good thing. So target market is one of those things that you continually need to assess, because the reality is your target market might not have been the right one when you launched the product. You really might be more effective, your product or your service might be better for a different market. Maybe your salespeople have found another market that makes more sense for you. That's okay, but do the assessment to figure that out. So here's a game plan for target market. Really refocus on that and don't stray. If it is the right target market for you, focus on it. You picked it for a reason. You did the analysis on the front end. If that analysis was flawed, then figure that out by looking at the KPIs for that target market. What's the total addressable market size? How much of that have you captured? And how much of that is prospects versus customers? You may get in there and do the analysis and realize that for a different market, you've captured a huge share of it. And wow, that's really what we need to go after instead. And then what do you need to do to engage more? And I'm going to talk about engagement in detail in the next section. Do you have enough information on your target market? Are you just getting first name, last name, email? Or are you capturing more? And if you aren't capturing more, what should you be capturing? What's the data that to you as a marketer is really relevant to you that's going to allow you to communicate with those people more effectively? Okay, engagement. This is really all about whether or not you are capturing the right behaviors on your contacts. And here's the thing, the old adage is so true. Actions speak louder than words, and to us as marketers, what customers do is so much more important than what they say, because it tells us about their interests, tells us about their intent, and it gives us information on them that allows us to communicate with them in a relevant way. And in our world as a marketer today, it's all about relevance. Think about the number of emails that you get, whether it's to your business account or your personal account, on a daily basis. And you have to cull through those and figure out, what do I care about? If it's not relevant, it's gone. It's gone. And it's the same thing for your contacts. So think about what types of behaviors are going to be useful to you and allow you to communicate more effectively. Joshua, I think, referenced this in his session about how brands have a ridiculous amount of data on their customers, but we're not using it. And this data point actually speaks to it. 81% of companies say they are close to having a holistic view of their customers, but only 37% of customers for brands say that that brand understands them. That's a pretty huge gap. And like Joshua commented on, what that really says is we've got a ton of data, we're just not using it. It's just sitting there, wasting away. We can't let it do that. One other thing that I thought was interesting that came out of this study, and this was an e-consultancy study, 47% of brands say they have a strong capability for providing relevant communications, which that number alone is a little bit disturbing because it's really low. But only 35% of consumers say that the communications that they're getting are relevant. If it's not relevant, it's going in their trash can. It just is. There's just too much coming at us today to be able to look at messages that aren't relevant to us. So what are the characteristics of the right behaviors? There's really 4 key characteristics. First of all, they're individual. They're at the individual level, not in aggregate. So it's not females under the age of 40. It's not, people with a particular title. It's at the individual level. It's insightful. It tells you something about their interests or their intentions. It's contextual. It helps you understand them better. It helps you understand them in context, where they may be in the buying cycle or how they prefer to engage with your brand, be it email, mobile, or social. And it's actionable. It's data that you as a marketer can use to communicate with them more effectively. And when you have the right data, the right behavioral data, your database goes from being something that you think of as this to something that you think of as this. It's people. Because behind every single piece of data that you have, there's a person. There's a person behind every single piece of data that you have. You have to think about it that way. So you've got different types of data that you can capture. You've got your explicit and you've got your implicit. And they're different. So explicit really captures a picture of a person at a certain point in time. When you fill out that preference center page, it is capturing a picture of you at a certain point in time. But implicit captures multiple pictures over multiple points in time. So as things change, that's being captured. Reflects who people think they are, whereas implicit reflects what they actually do. And explicit has to be updated to stay current. Implicit, you're automatically capturing across channels and tracking it over time. When was the last time you went back and updated a preference center page? We don't do it. Unless a marketer drives us to do it for some compelling reason, and it's going to have to be a really compelling reason to make me go back to a preference center page, you're not going to do it. That data gets stale really fast. So what are some of the explicit data capture sources? This is stuff we're all doing today, right? We're doing forms, we may be doing surveys, progressive profiling, things like social sign-in, preference centers, basic explicit data capture stuff. The interesting stuff comes from the implicit data capture. And this is something that as a marketing organization, you have to sit down and you have to figure out which behaviors matter to you. What buyer behaviors, what actions that they take are going to be interesting to you as a marketer and allow you to send them content that's interesting to them. So some examples. What pages did they visit? Did they post to Twitter? How long since their last visit? How many emails have they opened? What articles did they read? What white papers did they download? Figure out what behaviors are going to matter to you as a brand and allow you to communicate more effectively. Now, as important as what they are doing is what they aren't doing. This brand, Banana Republic, does a great job with this. So, I love Banana Republic for a long, long time. I shopped there all the time. I was norm when I went in my local store. It was ridiculous. I've fallen off the map. I haven't been opening their emails. I haven't been going into the store. I've just kind of started not shopping there as much anymore. They sent me this great email. First of all, I loved the subject line. I couldn't not open the message when I got the subject line. I was intrigued. I think it was more the marketer in me than it was the consumer in me, but I had to look at it. And then they sent this great email, please stay. And what I really liked about this email is they didn't lead with a 40% off coupon. They led with, has something changed or is there something we can do better? But they recognized that I hadn't opened any messages and they responded to that. This is a really great example. If you want to follow a retailer that's doing a great job watching behaviors and using behaviors, these guys do a great, great job. The other place that you can get good behavioral data is external systems. So if you have not sat down with your IT organization, and I know this can be a painful thing to do, but if you've not sat down with them and had a conversation and figured out what other third-party systems there are that your organization is using, you should do that quickly, now, like this year, so you can figure out what other data you might be able to mine and pull into your marketing database and use. There is not a marketing platform out there that can't pull data from a third-party system. They can all do it, Silverpop included. So figure out what other systems exist in your organization that may have data that you can use. So just a few examples I have here. Obviously CRM, e-com, inventory systems, web analytics. There's a ton of systems that you can tap into to get more data on your prospects and your customers and pull that in and use that in your campaigns. Okay, so your game plan for engagement. I know that was a long section. So assess your usage of behaviors today. Which behaviors matter to you? If you haven't figured that out yet, sit down as a team and figure that out. Figure out which behaviors are going to be relevant to you as a marketer. Are you currently capturing those behaviors? And once you have them, how are you using them? Are they just sitting in your database, kind of wasting away and not being used? Or are you pulling that information into your campaigns and using it? Take a look at your top and your bottom performers from 2015, your emails. Look at which perform best and which perform worst, and see if from the ones that performed worse, there's some learning you can take from the ones that performed well to improve those as you go into 2016. And then identify other areas, potential areas for improvement. Maybe you have a list problem, maybe you have a subject line problem, they're not engaging enough. Is your offer compelling? Really take a holistic view, non-siloed approach. Okay, mobile. So this is probably the most important question that you can ask yourself from an assessment perspective. Are you delivering an effective and an engaging mobile experience? Couple data points that speak to why this is so important. First of all, mobile opens have increased 400% since 2011. Again, think about your own behavior. Think about how many times a day you're looking at that phone. I'll tell you at Silverpop, one of the bad habits we all have, we drag our phones with us to meetings and we sit on our phones in meetings. I'm probably on a mobile device 75% of the day, right? Because of that. We rely on those devices a ridiculous amount. So do your customers. This was, I just thought, an interesting chart that kind of showed usage pattern. I looked at this and I went, yep, that's me. On your cell phone in the morning when you're heading into work, on your laptop or your desktop in the middle of the day when you're at work, on your tablet at night. This is what most people are doing. Based on this chart, 50% of our day is spent on a mobile device. And again, there's probably a lot of people that do what we Silverpoppers do, drag their cell phones into meetings with them and look in emails on there as well. So huge usage. And again, some more data points. So the first number, 53% of emails are opened on a mobile device. The first time it's opened on a mobile device. You need to assume when you are building your email content, that is the first place it will be viewed. This number fluctuates a little bit. This is a number we got from Litmus at the beginning of the year. It fluctuates usually between about 47 and about 53, 55%. But it's going to do nothing but keep going up. So we need to be able to respond to that effectively with campaigns that are effective on mobile. Studies have found that we look at our phones 150 times a day. I was actually at another one of these events in a different city, and there was a speaker from Forrester, and based on a study they had done, it was twice that. And I think that number is probably a more accurate number than 150. 80% of the time, a message is going to get deleted if it's not effective or can't easily be read on a mobile device. And again, think about your own behavior. Think about the last time you opened a message and you just wanted to get to that call to action and you couldn't get to it and you were stretching and zooming and couldn't get to it. You probably did one or two things. I'll come back to it later, and you never went back, because why? Or you just deleted it. It has to be effective on a mobile device to be read. It has to be. People aren't going to work too hard on a mobile device to read something. Really, all this matters to us so much as marketers because we just can't take a siloed approach anymore. We can't focus on driving as many conversions as possible through one channel like email. That's not how people work today. It's just not how we work today. We're all looking on our phones, on our tablets, and our desktops, and we have to be effective as marketers across all of them. So some best practices, and again, this comes from our friends at Litmus. These are general guidelines. Obviously, different device types are going to have slightly different rules, but just some general guidelines. For your from name, you got about 25 characters, and it's okay if it gets cut off as long as people can still tell who it's coming from. In this case, I know that that's the Marketing Automation LinkedIn group, so it's okay. Subject line, you've got about 35 characters, and pre-header, you've got about 85. Important with the pre-header, make sure it's something useful, like a call to action, a special offer, a reminder of some sort, not having trouble viewing this email. We've gotten a lot better about this as marketers. A couple years ago when we talked about these guidelines, you saw that all the time. You rarely see it anymore. So we've gotten a lot better. Yes. From a design perspective, again, every marketing platform today has some form of responsive design, and responsive design is wonderful. You design it, it renders appropriately based on the device that it's being viewed on. Fabulous. The only problem with responsive design to me is that it allows you to still stuff a lot in your communications. And really the key with mobile is just keep it simple. Keep that mantra in your head. I think it was Beverly this morning that talked about the KISS principle. It really applies with mobile, right? You don't want to make your readers have to pinch or squint to see the content that's in your message. I've got a few examples here of retailers, and unfortunately the examples that we tend to provide with this are retail, but retailers really are at the forefront of mobile. So we see a lot of good examples that come out of the retail realm. This is one Container Store, my absolute favorite store. I love this store. But really easy to navigate. I could pick whatever gift category I wanted to look in. I can see the free shipping call to action. Fantastic mobile message. Another one that I thought was really good, Gazelle. These are the guys that will buy your old devices. They consistently do a great job. There was another one that came in the other day that was great. Really easy call to action, sell now call to action. Really easy to see if I want to, tap on a particular device, cell phone, tablet, other. Really, really, really easy to navigate. Super, super simple. There's not a ton of heavy text in here, right? Really, really easy. And then last, another one of my favorite retailers is J. Crew. These guys do a great job. Somewhere along the line, somebody came into their marketing department that said, you know what, when we have a sale, don't put any of that picture crap in. Just make it really simple. Just make the offer huge and then make it easy for them to navigate to where they want to go. And that's what they've started doing with all their sale communications. And it's great. I don't care about anything else but what percentage I'm going to get off when I'm getting a sales communication from them. So this is a really nice way to deliver a mobile message. So real simple examples, but again, it's that keep it simple principle when it comes to mobile. You really, really have to do that. Anybody doing SMS marketing? Okay, a handful of you. So SMS is kind of a little bit of a new frontier for us as marketers, but it's a really, really powerful option for us. And these data points actually speak to why. So SMS can reach over 80% of the world's population. 95% of SMS messages are opened within 3 minutes of receipt. And my favorite phrase of the day, think about your own behavior. When you get a text, you're probably pretty Johnny on the spot going to look at that text, right? Emails are coming in all day, right? We've turned off the alerts for emails because they're constantly coming in. But for a text message, we're gonna open those. We're gonna see who that's from. SMS has an open rate of 90+% versus 20 to 35% for email. And it has a response rate of 25 to 45%. Now, one of the questions that we tend to get asked with SMS is, yeah, but don't they have really high opt-out rates? They have about the same opt-out rate that email has. Here's the trick with SMS. As a marketer, we need to understand that if someone gives me that mobile number, they are letting me in closer to them. I am letting you past a barrier and saying, okay, I'm trusting you with this. And if you abuse that as a marketer, then yeah, they're gonna opt out, and they're gonna opt out fast. Because nobody wants to get a barrage of text messages from a brand, right? I'm letting you in because there's certain things that I want you to be able to communicate with me about because I really like your brand. Let me give you a quick example of somebody that did a really great job with it. DSW Shoes, which all the ladies in the room I'm sure are familiar with. They have a program, a birthday program. So in the month of your birthday, you get a coupon. I think it's a 25% off coupon. So they send you emails to remind you. I think it's a weekly email. If I'm not mistaken, it's a weekly. If by the 4th week, the last week of the month of your birthday, you have not used your coupon and you've signed up for SMS alerts, they will send you a text message, a text alert. Only got a week left to use it. They had like a 50% conversion rate on that program. Huge, huge results from it. All because they changed the communication vehicle for letting people know that they had this coupon waiting to be used. Really worked well. Again, SMS may not be for everybody, but what I would say to you as you're sitting down and you're doing your planning for the next calendar or fiscal year, just make it part of the conversation. The conversation may be, yeah, that's not a fit for us right now. But the conversation may be, you know what, let's start talking with some vendors about that and see what that really means and see if it makes sense for us, right? Let's start doing a little bit of investigation because it really is a powerful channel for us as marketers. Okay, so mobile game plan. I don't have this going, so I need to make sure, I think I'm about to run out of time. Think mobile first, so assume your content is being viewed and accessed primarily via mobile. Here's an interesting thing that you can do. Grade some of your content from this year for how effective it was on mobile. So were the calls to action easy to find and access? Was the content easy to read on a mobile device? Did you have to scroll and scroll and scroll, right? This is a really interesting thing to go through. Keep it simple your mantra for designing for mobile. and just make SMS part of the conversation. Again, it may not be right for you right now, but make it part of the conversation. Okay, social. I'm gonna have to, I just realized I'm gonna run over a few minutes, so I apologize for that. Key question to ask yourself, are you effectively using social to collaborate and engage with your prospects and customers? We have no choice but to figure out how to be effective on social. 1 billion people are on Facebook. It is a huge channel for us as marketers. We've got to be effective. And I love the first 2 presentations that were in this room today. I think they had some really, really great things to share with you with regards to social, and I was glad to see that there was a focus on social. But one thing that we have to keep in mind, we don't own social. And Facebook gave us a really strong reminder of that at the beginning of the year when they changed their newsfeed policy. So it used to be if you liked a brand, you'd get any updates they did in your newsfeed. Facebook made it pay to play, which is fine. They're a public company, they have shareholders, they need to make money. We get it. We get that as marketers, you felt like we were a channel that you could, have the opportunity to make some money off of. Makes sense, totally makes sense. But again, it's that reminder, we do not own social, but we do need to figure out how to leverage it so that people that are engaging with us through social, we own those relationships. We pull those people into our database and own that relationship. Couple creative ways that some of our customers are doing this. King Arthur Flour. If you have never been to their Facebook page, it's a wonderful page. But one of the campaigns that they did is they did a 5 days, 5 deals on their Facebook page. But to get the deals, you had to sign up to get their emails. That was the only way you were gonna get them. They had great conversion rate on this as well because their Facebook page is so popular. Really creative way to get people into their database so that they could own that relationship. Another one, a customer of ours, Performance Bike, and this is an easy thing that a lot of companies are doing now. They have a Join the Movement link on their Facebook page that allows people to just go ahead and sign up to receive their emails. If somebody's coming to your Facebook page, they have an interest in your brand. Leverage that page to capture their data and get them in your database. And then finally, one quick way that you can get your content spread out via social more, one of the things that we do with our white papers is we actually embed a Twitter link in them. Click on that, creates the Twitter posts for you, send. It's out in their networks, easy peasy for them to share that content. Great way to get your content shared. So on social, pick your top 2 or 3 social networks and focus. Joshua talked about that in his session, right? Where are the people that are your customers and your prospects? What are they using? That's where you should be. Assign resources to monitor and promote your content. We have somebody on our team that specifically, she's wonderful. Anytime we have new content, not only does she post it for us, but she sends information to the sales and the marketing team. Hey, this is what we're posting. Here's a link to it. Here's a LinkedIn post, a pre-populated LinkedIn post that you can just go ahead and post. You don't even have to think about it. It's so easy. She gives us talking points. It makes it so easy for us to share our own content. We're all really busy and running in 100 different directions. Having her do that is a lifesaver for us. Leverage hashtags wherever you can and actively blog and drive people to your blog. Can't say enough about thought leadership and how effective that is in communicating things about your brand and getting people interested in your brand. I'm going to try to finish up real quickly. Lastly, are you getting things done in the most effective way? So Chief Marketing Technologist is a site. Scott Brinker is the name of the gentleman that runs it. And starting in 2011, he started doing an assessment. He kind of looked at how many different types of marketing technology there were. And in 2011, there was about 100 companies that were providing some sort of marketing technology. He did it this year, and there's almost 2,000. We are super popular, we marketers. So the message here is, if there is a gap, so going back to looking at what other third-party systems your company's using, if you do that assessment and you find that there's a gap, somebody out there can fill that gap for you. Figure out what those gaps are, and then find the companies that can fill it for you. You don't have to live with gaps in your marketing strategy anymore, clearly. And I'm sure that number will be like close to 3,000 when he does it again this year. And then skill set. right? So skill sets have changed so much. It used to be email specialists, now we've got demand gen. Used to be database managers, we've got marketing ops now. We had PR and media planners. We've got inbound marketers, digital marketers, and then agencies of record, and it's gone to more boutique agencies. So things have just changed, and we need to change with that. And we need to look at our organization and figure out where we've got gaps in our team. Or maybe you've got people on your team that are doing things that maybe aren't quite as important, but it would be more important if we moved them over here and had them do this, do something different. So lastly, I will close with a couple getting started tips. First of all, on our website, can you see the link? Yeah, so I've got the link at the bottom of the slide. We have an email benchmark study that we do every year. This is interesting to look at because it lets you see how you're doing against your peers. We look at our entire customer base, so 3,000 brands across the world, global. We categorize it by industry, and then we look at open rates, click-through rates, and list churn. Really great way for you to kind of assess how you're doing against the averages in your industry. And then secondly, white paper that's based on everything we went through today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to cover every topic that's in the white paper, but I would encourage you to go ahead and download that as part of your 2016 planning efforts. It really does give you a checklist, an assessment form that you can use to kind of see how you're doing, and then some suggestions for how you can improve. So with that, I have run about 5 minutes over. I apologize. Thank you guys all so much for your time, and I will be out at the Silver Pot booth for the rest of the day if you want to stop by and chat or have any questions. And I thank you so much.
Jody Wern, everybody. Give it a go for Jody Wern, everybody. Thank you guys again. We have some more sessions starting soon. You can go outside, check it out at stage 2 or 3, or right back in here. We have Ashley Hensler from AOL. So we'll see you back at one of the sessions. Also, if you come back in here, make sure you scoot forward to get the best Wi-Fi. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you shortly.